teaching chicks on dating apps about flat Earth. Oh no. This is gonna be embarrassing.
Alright, I'm gonna call this young lady who has questions about flat Earth that I matched with on this dating app. And I do this all the time, but I figured I'd go live for you guys and see what happens. May be good, might not. We'll see if she's intelligent. Calling her.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm super good. Thanks for
What's your
asking.
beach number?
Yeah, 949. I'm from SoCal. I wasn't lying about that.
No, see, he is from California.
It's not.
So, you kept asking about the sky.
I don't understand. How do you know all this shit?
Well, basically personal observations, but also every ancient cosmology, every ancient civilization was making star maps and predicting eclipses and stuff. So, like, this isn't new info. I mean, this...
Okay, people have known the Earth is a sphere for a very long time. This isn't a new concept.
This stuff's been around for a long time. It's just been buried.
Like, I'm pretty sure during classical Greece, there were some estimations about the size of the Earth. They weren't right on, but they were relatively close for what they were working with. Like, this is not a new concept, Nathan.
But what do you mean? This?
Yeah, that's ancient wisdom. I don't think I have it. Yeah, I don't have ancient wisdom. But check your sheets.
Sky is just light.
Okay, well, you were trying to compare Earth to planets, and I was trying to tell you how, like, planets are just stars that move independently of the star plane.
No, they're not. You can see them through a telescope. You can literally see, like, amateur planet photos. Mature planet photos. I'm a bad speller. I apologize. Here we go. Amateur planet photos. If you go and you buy a decent enough telescope, you can do your own photos of planets and see that they aren't stars. You can see planets within our solar system with consumer-grade telescopes. Amateur space images. A lot of these aren't amateur. These are literally NASA photos. Amateur astronomy. See, there's someone who just in their backyard or whatever took a picture of what looks like Saturn. Oh, fucking Pinterest. A lot of these are generic space images, though. But you can find this stuff. And you could go and buy your own telescope and see the same stuff and see that they aren't stars. Nathan could do this. He won't, but he could.
Have you ever seen a time lapse of the night sky?
No.
Alright, well, the stars make perfect circles around Polaris.
They appear to. Polaris happens to be the star closest to the pole of the axis around which the planet spins. Therefore, it appears to be the most stationary, but it's not exactly stationary. It does have a wobble because it's not exactly perfect. So it appears that all the stars are rotating around it, but that's not really the case. What's happening is the Earth is rotating around its own axis.
It's called star trails. I could send you probably 100 star trails that I've done.
Okay.
So those
Well,
stars...
What do you mean that you've done, though?
Well, you just set up a camera and you take a time lapse of the sky. It's got to be on a clear night. You can't have clouds or chemtrails. But basically, like, if you take a time lapse of the sky over a couple hours, you'll see that the stars rotate around Polaris, which is our pole star.
Yes, it appears that that's the case, but that's not the case. It appears that way, again, because Polaris, which is the current North Star, it will change over time, and it has changed in the past, although not during recorded human history, because, again, these things are very far away, and it takes a very long time for changes to happen, because they happen very gradually. But nonetheless, it is how it works, right, Nathan? It's the pole star. Our Earth turns around its axis, therefore the one that is parallel to that axis is going to appear relatively stationary, and the other ones are going to appear to turn as they get further away from that axis.
That's what Polaris means. So...
That was chemtrails, yeah. Do we have chemtrails on mine? Chemtrails, boop! No bingo yet? No one got a bingo? Okay.
The planets move independent of those, and there's only a handful of them. There's not a lot. And there's a ton of stars. But I don't think any of those are material worlds that we're going to walk on one day.
Some of them, no. Some of them are gas giants. But the other ones that are solid, maybe someday if we don't kill ourselves.
They're just lights in the sky.
What are galaxies?
Fake.
Nathan! Nathan. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this, Nathan? Nathan! What the fuck are these? Nathan! What the fuck are all of these? Nathan! What the fuck are these? What are these? Nathan, you dumb bitch. Galaxies exist. You're in one. Insert the meme of Captain Barbossa being "You best be believing in galaxies. You be in one."
Fake?
Yeah, all of space is fake. So what do you mean? What are galaxies?
Well, but then how did the lights get into the sky?
Well, I wasn't there when the sky was created, but I got this book, right? It says God put this...
If the flat earth stuff didn't turn her off, the preaching about Jesus is gonna dry her up like the fucking Sierra Desert.
Sun, the moon, the stars in the sky for signs and seasons. And from what I can tell, that's what we see.
Are you a strong believer in God?
Yeah, I definitely believe in the Creator. I don't think that the sky map and the Earth with dolphins and strawberries was created from a Big Bang explosion.
The what now? Dolphins and strawberries?
Okay.
You know, I don't think it just randomly coalesced.
Do I think he had to be a little drunk to do this, like for confidence? I don't know about a little drunk. He drank a lot of this beer so far. Look at this. From the rim of the glass, like it looks like he filled it up right to here. And this is all gone. Like, that's a decent bit of beer. Depends on what his tolerance is, but he's not, like, super heavy. Like, my alcohol tolerance is pretty high. It always has been. And also, it's based on your weight. But he's, like, in pretty good shape, so I don't know. He's pretty tipsy, I'd say. I don't know how drunk.
Blessed.
How did you get interested in all this?
Oh, that's a good question. I was studying applied neuroscience and
How'd that work out for you, Nathan?
biochemistry and steroidogenesis, like epigenetics, all this stuff. Smartest guy I'd ever met. Told me to look into it.
By studying, do you mean you were looking things up on Google? Because, like, I Google stuff like, the planet bullshit in order to try and talk about them on stream, because obviously I'm not qualified, I don't have the knowledge base, nor do I claim to, but I certainly wouldn't say to someone, I learned about the round Earth when I was studying astrophysics. Like, no, I Googled fucking bullshit on Google. Like, I don't think you were in school learning about epigenetics, Nathan. I very much doubt you even know what epigenetics is.
And I asked him how long he'd been researching it, and he said 7 months. And I about dropped the phone because I knew if he'd been looking into it longer than a week, there's something there, and he said 7 months. And I immediately just started looking into it.
This is the same guy, by the way, who taught him to train his brain by taking hammers and, like, bouncing ping pong balls off them in order to, like, strengthen his brain. Not joking. That's a real thing he does, that he thinks it's good for your hand-eye coordination, I'd imagine. That's about it.
Didn't sleep for like 3 days. Then I bought a bunch of equipment to test it myself because I couldn't be the guy that told all my friends, oh yeah, it's flat. I saw videos on YouTube.
It's literally what you're saying, though. It's literally what you're saying. Even if you don't want to admit that's what you're saying, it's what you've done.
I had to be like, no, guys, I heard about this. It blew my mind. I went and spent a bunch of money on equipment. Anyone can do this themselves. But people just want to turn it into a belief because, I don't know, they're lazy or like have been programmed to be cult followers their whole life or something. I don't know, but this is something anyone can test. And like ask any construction worker how they level out a home. Level means flat.
Okay, again, Nathan, when you're talking about building something, especially something with the footprint of like a house or a skyscraper or whatever, the distance is not long enough that you need to take curvature into account. What you need to worry about is elevation in that case, right? If you were building a bridge that's incredibly far, you would need to take curvature into account. But the vast majority of us don't own houses miles and miles long. It's not something that's necessary. Feminist Critique Pod, thank you for gifting a sub. I'm surprised we haven't done a hype train today. It's a shame.
That's the word flat means level. If you look in the dictionary, the word level means free of bends or curves or irregularities. So synonyms are flat, plumb, flush, straight, smooth.
Sure, but that has nothing to do with whether or not there is curvature on the Earth. When we talk about flatness on planet Earth, it's always with the understanding that we're talking about relative to other places on the sphere of the Earth, right? So, like, the salt flats, for instance, they're considered flat despite the fact that they are on the curved Earth, because we're talking about flatness in terms of elevation. It's very, very flat. When they talk about Kansas or wherever, and they're like, oh, it's flatter than a pancake, we're talking about elevation. We're not talking about, like, its distance relative to itself on the ball that is the Earth, because that's not usually a metric that matters to us. The curvature only matters over very long distances because it's so gradual and the Earth is so huge.
So when they level out a home, they're flattening it out. They're not curving it. Lakes, when they say sea level, that's sea flat. Or sea smooth, or sea plumb.
Nathan, sea level is usually what we use as a baseline for elevation, right? But even that's a little misleading because, like, the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean do actually have slightly different heights. I don't know if people know this. Like, you're comparing elevation to the shape of the Earth when these are separate concepts.
Or sea straight.
Is she laughing at him? Oh, Nathan, move on, bud. She's smart enough to know better than to fall for this shit.
So how much money have you invested into looking this stuff up?
Now she's in the collecting information for the story she's going to tell her friends later phase of this conversation. She's like, okay, when I tell them I talked to this crazy flat earth on Tinder, and he says he's been doing these experiments, I gotta find out how much money he's thrown into this. Okay. Over under $10,000. Let's take some guesses from the chat before we continue to see if he says over or under $10,000 all in. I don't know what he would have spent this money on. I don't know if he owns a telescope that's good. I have no ideas. The flyers. Yeah, he does print a lot of the flyers. Captain Rachel says under 10 over 5. Crying Brian says 50,000. Tom G says hard over. Most people are saying over. He doesn't seem rich, but he does seem irresponsible, so who knows?
Well, including all the traveling, probably about $20,000.
Oh, no! Nathan! Nathan, no! That's so much money! You could have put a down payment on a nicer house. Well, no, this house is in Southern California. So in fairness, real estate's more expensive than it is over here. Fair enough.
Did you just have like $20,000 lying around, or is your family rich?
Well, my family is rich, but they don't give me money. So
Does your family believe this?
So I've always been really good at sales. And no, phone died.
That's a shame. That's a shame. I wanted that conversation to continue. Because you can tell she's not interested, but she is, like, curious about this weirdo she's talking to. And that was a fun way to prod him along in this conversation.
I didn't have it plugged in. She's gonna like that one. I had it plugged in, but it wasn't charging.
Tools of capitalism.
Wing the Ultimate Nug with 10 bits. Thank you.
Darn, she was sharp. She had a good question.
Nathan, she wasn't making fun of you to her face, but she was collecting information to make fun of you in private later. And he doesn't even understand that that's what was happening. That's kind of sad.
She thought someone was knocking. Nobody's knocking. Hi to everybody on camera. Good boy. Do you know?
Let me see if it calls her
One
back.
second. Isn't on that video. Hello.
Whoa, hello.
I had my phone plugged in. Oh.
Oh, thank fuck, he got her back on the phone.
Well, now it's not
There's
plugged in
nothing
again.
funny about the tools of capitalism.
Shiggity Schwa with 100 bits, I guess, under like a chump. Here's my tribute.
Gio.
Thank you.
Oh, bad boy. Alright, so I had my phone plugged in, but it wasn't charging. Because, yeah, you gotta flip it over and put it on the right side.
Captain Rachel says my mom rents one room in her house for $900 a month. California rent is insane. Wow. You guys would have your minds blown by how cheap my mortgage payment is relative to that. This whole house, which is a 3-bedroom house, costs me, it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I basically have 2 living rooms and a kitchen, an upstairs, and a basement. I pay $540 a month for my mortgage. Like, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Michigan real estate is cheap as fuck.
No, Gio. Yeah, so you were asking how I got into all this. And then I started testing it and spent like 20 grand on it. But money well spent.
Does your family believe this?
Again, there's that B word.
Does your family trust you?
None of my family has tested the earth. But
Yeah, but if you're going around and talking to people, then aren't they trying to believe you?
well, they all know that I'm not dumb, and they see all my speeches and stuff and the tests that I do. And like all my little brothers don't believe a thing about NASA and think the earth is flat. But my parents are skeptical about stuff. My mom more than my stepdad. But my real dad, after I told him the earth was flat, a week later he called me back and said, "You're onto something." Because he goes, "We see too far. I didn't realize this, but we can definitely see too far." And I said, "Yep, that's the black swan right there."
Like where? In the sky or in the ocean?
No, any large body of water, it should be curving downward. And then that would mean that the objects in the distance.
I find it hilarious that Globe Busters, who we watched earlier, it's these people, they have joined the chat and said first, despite the fact that they are not first, because they failed to take into consideration the fact that their chat doesn't necessarily show things prior to them showing up. I think that's a good little encapsulation of what these people fail to understand about the limits of their own cognition. Fun.
Would vanish due to Earth curve. And now we've always been told boats disappear bottom first due to Earth curve, but like if you watch boats or islands or lighthouses or just objects in the distance, yeah, they vanish bottom first, but that changes day to day, sometimes hour to hour, because it's atmospheric conditions. It's not curvature of Earth. So that's how like the longest distance photo is 270 miles.
Yeah, it's taken at a high elevation to a lower elevation, dummy. Again, I shouldn't just call these people dumb, because it's not helpful to bring people over to the correct side, but like, the lack of critical thinking, and it's so agenda-driven, it's insanity.
Now, there should be like 50,000 feet of Earth curve in between the mountain and that person, but
this is the flat smack guy, yes.
There wasn't. They took a picture of it. It's the world record photo.
Let's see what the world record longest photo. Japan printed a photograph 145 meters long. No, that's like the biggest. I need the like the furthest distance. Here we go. 273.4 miles away. The tallest mountain in the distance is only 2.4 miles tall. No, but like, they're standing on a mountain taking this. You can see it. You can see them standing on a mountain while they're taking this, guys. You get it? Jesus. The fact that they don't understand elevation is one of the more frustrating aspects of this, I'm not gonna lie.
So, like, we're seeing way too far. You can stand on a shore and point a laser at someone and see it from 10 miles, 20 miles, 34 miles. We've done tests. That's like over 600 feet of Earth curve. And
Well, if the Earth was round, when should it start curving?
well, at the first mile, it would curve 0.666 feet. And that's not a number I made up, or
Earth's curvature per mile. .98 inches per mile, or 8 inches per mile. So he is literally making up the fact that it's 666.
or got from the Bible. If the Earth's a ball 24,901 miles around, there would be approximately 7.98 inches of Earth curve, but 8 inches per mile squared is 0.666 feet.
8 inches per mile squared. Eight inches per mile squared. Do 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 do.
Per mile squared. So at 10 miles, you get 66.6 feet of Earth curve. At 100,
DHS is now saying that they're the ones being attacked and City of Portland is doing nothing to stop it. Oh, come on. Fuck them.
Miles, you get 6,666 feet of Earth curve. So because it's exponential, it's not logarithmic, so it gets really big really fast.
When planes fly, how can they
It's not 0.666, it's 0.66666 repeating. It's, okay, that makes
fly,
sense.
like, from Australia to San Francisco, but then also fly from Australia to China?
Yeah, well, that's easy. They just get in a plane and they fly. What do you mean? Like the Federal Airline Administration trains pilots on what's called a target generation facility. It's also how they train the air traffic controllers, but it's a flat Earth simulator that's non-rotating. So when airplanes fly,
It's not rotating, Nathan, because again, as far as the airplane is concerned, the Earth isn't, because we're all rotating with it and the atmosphere. Do you understand how relative motion works? We're all rotating with it together, so it feels like it's not rotating at all, despite the fact that it is.
they're not adjusting for, going around a ball. They're not adjusting for a rotating Earth.
Because they don't have to. Because they don't have to. Because the Earth is very big. You don't have to worry about the curvature very much because it's so gradual, and the Earth is so big, and you don't have to worry about the spin of the Earth because we are all spinning at the same speed the Earth is spinning.
That's all hocus pocus sorcery we've learned in school.
No, I know, but if it's flat, doesn't there have to be ends to it?
Well, the edges have never been observed. So, like you could say, doesn't there have to be edges to space?
We don't know. We don't know. We really don't.
Yeah, but they've also never been observed.
Yeah, those have never been observed either. So, on both models, there are unknowns. So, you can't be like, oh, you're a flat earther? Answer.
Okay, but people have seen almost everywhere on Earth. We've been to Antarctica. We've been to the Arctic.
Every single question
There are photographs of both places. You could talk to people who've been to Antarctica.
I have. Because the globe earthers can't answer every single question you have.
Okay, just because there are questions that science doesn't have the answer to right now doesn't make the answers they do have less legitimate. The fact that they're willing to say, we don't have an answer for is there an end to the universe? Is there an end to the matter that is space? We don't know. That doesn't mean we don't know the shape of the planet, Nathan.
Yeah, but
So, there are unknowns. On both models, the edge has never been observed. Have you heard of the Antarctic Treaty?
Oh my god, here we go with this. People bet you look. Antarctica photos. Oops, I spelled photos wrong. Such a good speller. I'm nailing it. Here's some people on a boat near Antarctica. Here's some people. Looks like a little village in Antarctica. It's probably like a science base or something. Here's some penguins. Here we have, again, probably some scientists studying some stuff. More penguins. There's more people in a boat. Lots of icebergs. There's a scientist, looks like taking pictures of penguins. There's a guy with a penguin. There's two people. Antarctica. Video of base? I'm curious. What's life like at an Antarctic station? This is an Australian base, apparently.
Expedition to Antarctica has realised Antarctica's importance to us. Australia has 3 scientific research stations in Antarctica and 1 on Macquarie Island. The oldest research station is Mawson, which was built over 60 years ago and takes the longest to reach, around 15 days by sea. Davis Station was established soon after Mawson, then Casey Station was built. The stations are like small towns with everything the expeditioners need, like lighting, heating, and water. They have scientific laboratories, mechanical workshops, a doctor's clinic, food and equipment storage, communications, and of course the living quarters, where the
It's like the movie The Thing!
expeditioners sleep, eat their meals, and relax. Inside the living quarters are all the comforts
It's honestly nicer than I thought it would be.
of home, such as lounge areas, a gym, movie theatre,
Probably because most of my, view of what an Antarctic base looks like comes from The Thing, which was in the 80s.
and games areas. The stations all have carpenters, renovating and fixing things, mostly inside over winter. There are electricians and plumbers to make sure there is fresh water and to look after the wastewater treatment. There are mechanics who keep the generator going for lights and heating, and who also look after the vehicles on station. The machinery includes over-snow-tracked vehicles called haglins, which are ideal for taking people and equipment out into the field. For shorter trips, the expeditioners use quad bikes. People from the Weather Bureau observe and forecast the weather, and communication staff keep all the radio, satellite, and computer equipment going. A doctor lives at each station to look after the people's health and in case anyone gets sick or has an accident. Most important is the chef, who cooks all the meals, unless on a day off when others take their turn in the kitchen. Food is a big part of
That's
daily
cool.
life for the expeditioners. Food is resupplied once a year when the ship arrives. The only fresh food during the long winter months are the vegetables and herbs the expeditioners grow in a hydroponics facility.
That's very cool. Hydroponics is, super cool shit. It's not something I could ever see myself doing, but, it's a cool thing. Hydroponics is neat.
It's a popular place to work because it's warm and the expeditioners love having fresh lettuces or tomatoes. The warmth inside the buildings is a big contrast to the weather outside. Sometimes the expeditioners can't go outside for days at a time. The wind can get to over 200 kilometres an hour, and the air can be
Wow.
so thick with snow you can't see a metre in front of you. In such extreme cold, the right clothing is really important. The type and amount of clothing needed to stay warm and dry depends on the time of the year, the location, and the activity the person is doing. For working on the ice during the summer, expeditioners have long woolen thermal underwear, trousers and a shirt with a windproof layer on top. In the winter they wear big heavy boots, huge fluffy gloves, and lots of layers topped with a thick puffy jacket and a windproof layer. The Antarctic expeditioners love celebrations, especially in midwinter, which is the shortest, darkest day of the year, around the 21st of June. For a couple of weeks around this time, the sun doesn't rise at all. Life on station continues pretty normally, with regular chores and activities, but everyone stays mainly indoors. From that point on, the expeditioners have the return of the sun and longer days to look forward to. Midwinter is traditionally celebrated with a swim. The people on station cut a hole in the ice for what is more of a quick dip in the water, which is around -2 degrees. The air temperature is often around -20 degrees.
I would not want to do that. So here's someone trekking through the South Pole, apparently, with a drone.
So the expedition officially starts now.
Cool. It's very cool. Seems dangerous as fuck, though. Either way, Nathan, you basically have to ignore all of this for what you're saying to be true.
No, I haven't heard of any of the words that you've really said.
Yeah, so the Antarctic Treaty has been around since 1961, right before they started faking space. But all the countries agreed that basically everything in the Antarctic Treaty. I don't want to list everything in there, but it's ridiculous. I mean,
Is it because you haven't read it, Nathan, but you just repeat what other people say? No, I'm not going to pretend I've read it either. I haven't. But I'm also not the one who believes the Earth is flat, so it seems like you should probably know exactly what's in it, right?
independent travel. You got to be either on a guided tour or some special scientist invited by the government or Joe Biden and Buzz Aldrin to go to Antarctica.
Thank you, Chafe Feminist, for following.
Didn't he go to space?
was a Freemason, and he lied about going to space, and he gets drunk all the time and punches people who ask him to swear.
Let's watch that, shall we? Buzz Aldrin punch. So one time, a moon landing denier came up and accused Buzz Aldrin of being a liar about the moon, and this is what happened. Oh, even more so. He asked Buzz Aldrin to come in for an interview. Buzz, assuming it was just, an interview to talk about, the moon landing. And he, basically bum rushed him with, you're a liar, you're a disgrace to this country. Which you don't want to do to Buzz Aldrin.
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon? Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything.
You tell him to get out of here.
This is a hotel.
We'll call the police.
We pay.
Come on in here, we'll call the police.
Solicit
You like that?
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
It doesn't, sir, I don't have nothing to do with this, but
Okay.
you cannot solicit on this property.
We just paid
Right now,
to rent out the penthouse to shoot up there. So
you can't solicit like this on this property.
keep shooting.
All right, well, then I'd go through my measures.
You got to keep shooting, man. Okay. Well, you can put it on your shoulder. Don't be shy.
Just come with me, Buzz.
You really like attention, don't you?
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Ooh! Yeah, don't get in the face of someone who's risked their life going to the moon. They'll fuck you up.
On the Bible that he went to space?
So Nathan here is being like, he's a drunk and a coward and he punches people. Nathan, he punched someone because he was, harassing him. And he said that his, life's greatest achievement never happened and that he's lying about it.
Yeah, that's Buzz Aldrin. No, he literally punched someone who asked him to swear on the Bible.
You're completely mischaracterizing what happened, Nathan, you fucking liar. The guy was harassing Buzz Aldrin, and yeah, he was mad. Can you imagine if you achieved something that, 24 people have ever done, and you're told, hey, you're a liar. Yeah, I wouldn't take that shit either.
He went to the moon. And I mean, if I went to the moon, I'd freaking open a bottle of champagne and put my left hand on that Bible. Are you kidding me? I'd be like, are you joking, dude?
Nathan, you know for a fact if Buzz Aldrin went, I've been to the moon, and he put his hand on the Bible, he'd be like, you just lied on a Bible! Nothing's good enough for you people. There's literal video and photographs of these things happening, and you don't believe it. And you think anyone's gonna believe Buzz Aldrin just because he puts his hand on a stupid fucking book? Nathan, you people always move the goalposts. No one is under any obligation to deal with your bullshit.
Someone's like, oh, put your right hand on the Bible and swear you won the Super Bowl. You think anyone who's won the Super Bowl is going to punch someone? How ridiculous. You know? Sit down. Yeah. But that's how they react because they're liars on wires and fools in pools.
But I don't understand how planes fly and go either direction of
Well, the
countries.
wings generate lift.
Okay, not that part.
True.
Yeah, that's how they fly. And they fly level. They're called airplanes, not air curves.
Alright, shut the fuck up.
No, they're called airplanes, not air curves. So you're like, I don't understand how a plane flies straight. And I'm like, well, it's in the name of the word airplane. It's an
No,
airplane.
I'm not asking how it flies straight. I'm asking how it flies, where are the edges and how does a plane fly?
Okay, so none of the continents you've heard of or have airports or people travel to are anywhere near the edge. Okay?
Gleason map. he thinks that the Gleason map is the most accurate. He tells people you've been peeping the Gleason. So this is the Gleason map. On it, you can see Australia down here. Pretty damn close to the edge. Pretty darn close. And there's New Zealand, even closer. So yeah, if there was a giant, like, ice wall, as you claim, you'd probably be able to see it at some point if you were high enough in an airplane. Also the tip of South America over here. Very, very close to the edge. Look at that. It's almost touching it. Like, dude, even on your own bullshit projection. Not that the Gleason map is bullshit. It's used for, like, specific things. The Gleason map, I think, is used for distance from the Arctic. But, yeah. There would be plenty of places where you'd be able to see the ice wall if it were a thing.
So if you ever get...
You can also get cruises to the Arctic, by the way. Antarctic cruises. Like, you can just go get a cruise to Antarctica. This is the Norwegian Cruise Line. You can go and do this, dude. Nathan, go on a cruise and go to Antarctica. Like, anyone can do this if you pay the money. Go and do it.
Get in a plane and fly somewhere, which, I mean, it's usually done by a computer. Pilots just sit in there in the cockpit. They used to walk around and have drinks with people, but ever since 9/11, that kind of changed. So, I mean, school bus...
The pilots shouldn't be drinking, Nathan. What?
Bus drivers do more than airplane pilots. Let's just be clear about that.
Okay, I would say in practice that can be true. Modern autopilot systems in airplanes are incredible feats of engineering, and once you're up in the air at cruising altitude, yeah, it can pretty much take over and you just need to watch the instruments and stuff. But in the case of an emergency, a mechanical failure, anything that, like, goes off track in terms of, like, it's not going according to plan, then the pilots have a lot more expertise involved than a bus driver. I would say the bus driver needs to maintain concentration at all times, whereas a pilot has a greater knowledge base about the vehicles they're using and how they function. However, a lot of the time they can just be monitoring without necessarily having their hands on the wheel.
So they sit in there in the cockpit, the airplane flies itself, but nowhere at any time is anyone flying near the edge. I mean, if you look at flight simulator, or not...
Captain Rachel says, hey, look, in about 2 seconds of Googling, I found a company that does flights to the South Pole for only $52,000. You laugh, but Globebusters bought a $20,000 laser gyroscope to try and prove the Earth was flat. Of course, it actually proved the Earth was round, and they didn't accept the $20,000 instrument that they paid for was correct. So they could just raise the money. Of course, no matter what, they're going to say, oh, we didn't really go to the Antarctic, even though it is. Nothing, let me be clear. Nothing will ever be enough for these people. Nothing will ever be enough. They could literally, 30 years from now, SpaceX could literally be offering people shuttles to the moon base, some hotel on the moon or something, and these people could literally go on that shuttle, go to the moon, experience microgravity, and they still wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, nothing will ever be enough for these people, because it's not about the Earth being flat. It's not about the truth. It's about the fact that these people want to feel superior to others, and they want to feel like they're in on some big conspiratorial secret. It will never be enough. The truth will never be enough for them, because that's not what they're looking for.
Flight simulators, but flight tracking systems? Nobody's really even flying in the southern hemispheres. All flights go across the northern hemisphere that are long distance. They, like flights from Australia.
real quick. Just in case anyone wasn't here earlier when I was doing this. Here's a link to my YouTube channel. I put all my streams on here. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already, check it out. Give a subscribe if you like this stream.
Australia to America, they usually stop in Dubai or India, or they're going to the Middle East somewhere. They're not going around a globe.
Yeah, but well, flights from Australia usually go to over Hawaii and then into California.
Okay. But the flight from Thailand, where they had an emergency landing, they stopped in Alaska. So they didn't stop in Hawaii, they stopped in Alaska.
Yeah, but that's the same thing, just
No,
higher up.
no, not even close. Alaska is a separate, on the very north, near the North Pole, and Hawaii is an island on, like, the bottom latitude of the U.S. So if they were...
Okay, but if there was an emergency and it was closer, they could, like, go over the Arctic or Antarctic or wherever you said they were coming from.
flying around a globe from Taiwan or Australia, that sort of area, you would think they would land in Hawaii, but they didn't. They landed in Alaska.
Let's see. World map. Taiwan. Nathan, no. Why would they do that? Australia's closer to Taiwan. All you have to do is go up to the right here, and you're in Alaska. Because this just, it's like Pac-Man. If you're looking at a flat map, it's like Pac-Man. You go off one side, you show up at another. Taiwan is closer to Alaska than it is Hawaii, it looks like. Like, what? And I don't know what their specific flight path was in the first place, but... Nathan.
So that's actually one of the arguments people bring up. I don't think it's the best argument. I'd just rather talk about how the Federal Airline Administration trains pilots. You ask pilots if they account for Earth rotation, they look at you like they saw a ghost.
They look at you because you're an idiot who doesn't understand that the atmosphere moves with the Earth. You don't have to move with the... I've explained this 50 times today. The atmosphere moves with the Earth. We're moving with the Earth. One of the laws of motion says, if something is in motion, you have to act to make it stop. So when an airplane takes off, because it's already moving with the Earth and the atmosphere is also moving with the Earth, they all appear stationary relative to each other. You do not need to account for the rotation of the Earth because you are a part of it. You are already moving in concert with it.
They're like, what are you talking about? Earth rotation.
Nathan, they're saying that because it's a dumb... I mean, don't get me wrong. If someone asks that question and they don't understand about the atmosphere and how it moves and stuff, that's fine. But, like, they're treating you like an idiot because you're probably asking the question multiple times and not understanding their answer.
I'm like, well, you believe the Earth rotates 1,000 miles an hour, right?
It rotates once per day. You keep using linear velocity when it's rotational velocity that matters.
Yeah, so...
Are you asking me that?
I mean, that's what everyone believes. That's what the cult religion of the globe heliocentric model teaches, is the floor is rotating, and that's what's generating day and night.
Outside, the floor is called the ground, Nathan.
Right.
Yeah, 1,000 miles an hour, faster than the speed of sound.
The speed of sound, Nathan, is relative to the medium that you're in. The Earth and its atmosphere are rotating in space. So if you're expecting like a sonic boom, that's not how it works. You're also talking about rotational velocity and not linear velocity, so it's not really applicable. Solias00, thank you for following.
And nobody feels a thing.
Nathan, you don't... When you're in a train, like a maglev train... Maglev trains can go very fast. This train goes over 500... Let me just silence this. This train goes over 500 miles per hour, right? Are they in it yet? Come on. Give me some interior. Come on. There we go. This goes 600 kilometers per hour. No, it's stationary right now. Damn, I need to find one in motion. Hold on. Okay. So while you're in this, when it is not accelerating, but let's say you've already accelerated to 600 kilometers per hour, 500, 300, however much it is, you will not feel motion because no one feels motion. Motion is relative. What we feel is changes in velocity, right? So if the train is speeding up or slowing down, you feel that because your velocity is changing. But as long as everything is moving together and you're already at a consistent pace, it feels like nothing's moving, provided that you don't have a bunch of bumps and stuff, and this is a maglev train, so of course you don't. It's why you could be on a maglev train going like 500 miles per hour, but you could take a coin and stick it on its end, and, like, it would stay there, right? Because, again, once you're moving, it doesn't feel like you're moving. You only feel changes in velocity, not absolute motion. Jouster Zen with 20 bits. Hannah, don't think about it so hard. It'll make perfect sense. Yeah, I bet. After he's done talking to this woman, we'll move on.
Just think about that for a second.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Like I said, I wish I was on drugs because I feel like I would be having a lot more fun with this conversation. But
that may be so.
Yeah, it would definitely be so. Or I would just be laughing hysterically.
What kind of drugs are you into?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure what kind of... You're still in the
experiment for a later date.
You're still in the experimental stage.
No, I'm not. But I just don't understand how, I don't know, the plane thing is weird to me.
You're literally saying the plane, the flat thing. That's what plane means.
No, okay.
The
flying thing is weird to me.
The flying thing. Okay, yeah, so the planes, they use the wings, they generate lift, they go above the flat Earth, and then they reach cruising altitude, they level out.
He's so bad at this.
Right, and then they just...
Like, Flat Earth is bullshit, but if I wanted to defend it, I could do a better job than him. He says he's a good salesman. I find that hard to believe.
Cruise.
I think he's a persistent salesman who pressures people into sales if that's what he's doing for a living. He's certainly not someone who uses his, like, joie de vivre or, like, skills to get a sale.
Level over the flat Earth. If you look out the window to the right, it's flat and pretty much eye level. You look out the window to the left, it's also flat and pretty much eye level.
Because we're very close to it. Even when you're at even when you're in a plane in the sky, relative to how big the Earth is, you're still very close to the surface.
And so
you have to get quite a bit away from the surface of a sphere when you're our size in order to see it for what it is.
I don't know what you're confused about there.
I'm confused that you can fly from, like, why does it take longer to fly from, if I was to go from New York and fly all the way to China, it would take me 18 hours?
Yeah, I've done that flight.
If I was to fly from New York the opposite way to Australia, it would take you about 24 hours.
Oh, okay, gotcha. This one's a good one. So why does it take longer to travel to China than Australia?
Jet streams.
Very simple. it's a longer distance that you're traveling when you're going to
No,
Australia.
because you're going opposite directions.
Jet stream. Jet streams exist, and they affect the speed at which planes can proceed through the atmosphere.
So going opposite directions makes it not a longer distance?
No,
I don't follow.
Well, if the Earth were flat, you'd have to take off in New York and go the same way that you went to China, because China is like basically next to Australia.
Not necessarily. I have to look at how they go from the U.S. to Australia. I've never taken that journey. Have you taken any of these flights?
Yeah, I lived in Australia for a year, and I've been there 3 times.
I guarantee if she said no, he was going to just say, well, how do you even know they even exist? But she said yes, so he's like, oh, fuck, I can't use it.
Okay, so 24 hours, and where did you travel over? What direction? Is a lake or a pond or a stream?
Yeah, but you can't explain the flights, though, which is confusing to me.
I did explain the flights. They fly over a non-rotating flat Earth. That's how all pilots are trained. And then you try to imagine a map in your mind, and then ask me how this flights work that you've taken on the map. You imagine. Check this out. It's wild. And so he says with vaccines.
All right. I'm done with the dumb Nathan conversation. That's it for Nathan.